What's up, guys? It's your boy Dark Sage, back with another video, and today we finna be doing What If Deku Was a Zoldyck Part 1. But before we get into the video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, cause it help young dude out. And I said that the videos will be coming out tomorrow, which they will, but I'm gonna be uploading a lot tomorrow, so yeah, be prepared for that. But let's get into the video. So we see a young red-haired boy being born. His father has white hair, and his mother has black hair, I think. And Deku comes out with red hair. And Sylva's like, "What the fuck is this? Well, I've never had a child with red hair. What, did you cheat, bitch?" And she's like, "Of course not, darling. I don't understand why he has red hair." And so once they fucking get Deku, or you know what, fuck it, I'm calling him Deku. Once they get Deku checked for, like, birth defects, they say that his hair and eyes are just birth defects. They might be a part of his quirk. And so they accept this. Well, nah, they don't accept this. They just go home, shit. And once they get there, they raise Deku for 3 years. And in this 3 years, Deku has been tortured, tormented, and belittled, because they think he's weak. The only people Deku can even look up to are Killua, Illumi, and fucking Aluka. And Aluka hasn't been imprisoned yet. And so they are basically what makes Deku's life livable. But one day, Killua leaves. And Deku is extremely saddened by this. He says, Big brother, why are you leaving?" And Killua puts a hand on Deku's head and he says, "Deku, I will be back in 5 years and I will track you down. And once I track you down, we're gonna live together, I promise. And I'll never let you out of my sight, alright?" And Deku nods his head to this. And he's like, "Okay, big brother, promise me." And so they promise. And once Killua leaves, Illumi is sent shortly afterwards, I'll say 5 hours afterwards, to go find him. But I mean, Illumi is not finding that nigga. And so now Deku is like, "What the fuck? Why is everybody leaving?" And then he sees Aluka. And he runs over to Aluka, but before he can get there, she's pulled away. And Aluka says, "No, Mizuki, stop! Stop!" And Mizuki throws Iluka in a cell with a bunch of toys, books, and colorful things. And Deku doesn't know where Iluka went, but he wants her back because it's scary. And when Deku tries to get out, he's stopped by his mother, and he's immediately whipped for being insolent. And Izuku has had enough of this. Once Mizuki chains him up to beat the living hell out of him, and I do mean the living hell out of him, Deku breaks he breaks all of his chains. And he forms 5 lava balls, and he throws them at fucking Mizuki. And Mizuki is burned alive. Mizuki had a silent death, so nobody fucking heard it. And once this happens, Deku sneaks out. And he runs as fast as he can. My nigga is sprinting. He's moving. I mean, Sonic would have had a hard time catching this nigga. This nigga is moving. Damn. Usain Bolting out that bitch. And he runs into the woods, darting through the fucking bushes, the trees, the grass. And then he falls and stumbles. And he falls right into the orphanage, basically. right in front of an orphanage. And Deku's like, wow, what luck I have. And once he walks in, he's like, hello? Can I get any help? And people come walking in and they see a boy with all of these cuts, bruises, and blood all over him. And Deku had a sword on his back. Because, yeah, he wasn't just unarmed. Deku was taught. My nigga is a fighting prodigy. But, yeah. Deku is like, yeah, my, my parents, they'll come looking for me. But, nah, they're not gonna come looking for him. Because Silva will stop his mother or fucking Deku's mother from looking for him. Because Silva wants Deku to have a normal, good life. He doesn't really want any of his children to be like fucking assassins. He wanted some of them to have good lives. Like Killua, he wanted Killua to have a good life. So he would stop Deku's mother from trying to find him. And so once they take Deku in, Deku spends the next 3 years there, training, making friends, and he tucks the evil person that he really was in the back of his mind. And this is when a green-haired lady would walk in. And she'd look at Deku. And she'd say, I want to adopt that boy. And Deku doesn't have... Well, he still has all these cuts, bruises, and shit. He has more cuts and bruises than he ever did. Because I know you mean... I mean, he was bullied, but like... He's fighting back. And so... Once she adopts him, Deku looks like this. He has a bunch of clothes on so that he looked presentable. But when they got home and she was like, okay, Deku or Izuku, you can just go take a bath. And Deku was like, a bath? Oh, what is that? And Inko looks confused and she says, you don't know what a bath is? No, I don't. Can you help me? And Inko agrees to this. And when she goes and she takes all of Izuku's clothes off and she puts him in the bathtub, she sees all of his scratches and scars and bruises and all of his cuts. And she's like, Izuku, how did you get all of this? And Izuku looks at her with darkness in his eyes and says, don't worry about that. I'm here now. And she looks at him and says, oh, okay. We'll just leave that in the past, I guess. And Deku agrees to this. And so, on Deku's... Oh, shit. On Deku's fucking 5th birthday, he goes to school. And, oh, shit. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Yeah, sorry. But as I was saying, it's been a year, and it's now Deku's birthday. And he's going to school. And Deku is now, 4 years old? So they went to go get Deku's quirk tested. But Deku, he doesn't have a quirk. And he never will. Deku has power. He doesn't have nin. He has true power. And the doctor says, I'm sorry, kid, you're quirkless. And Deku looks at him and says, you're wrong about that. My quirk is so powerful, it's astounding. Sorry, I don't have a quirk, you said. I have power. And the doctor says, no, kid, you don't. You're quirkless. And Inko's like, Izuku, I'm sorry. You're quirkless. And Deku says, Inko, because you've been taking care of me, I'm gonna give you a little something. And Deku makes a lava-style fucking penguin. And he puts it on Inko's neck. And he says, look, I know that the doctor said I was quirkless. but I have power. Remember this. And fucking Deku and Inko, they leave with the doctor and Inko being astounded. And the next day when Deku goes to school, everybody surrounds Deku and is like, hey, what's your quirk? And Deku says, I don't have one. And once all of them hear this, they bust out in laughter. And Deku likes this. He likes the fact that they're laughing. Because he wants to destroy all of their pride and make them look like fools once he's shown his true power. But Deku's gonna wait. So once Bakugo hears this, he comes up and starts pushing Deku. And he's like, my quirk is explosions. And he tries to explode Deku's face, which he does. And it leaves a scratch on Deku's face. And everybody's like, Bakugo, why did you do that? You hurt him. Now he's gonna cry and tell his mom. But Deku is unfazed by this. He's standing and looking at fucking Bakugo and says, is that the best you can do? And everybody's like, what? And at blinding speeds, Deku runs at Bakugo and punches him in the stomach. And then he lifts Bakugo up by his neck and slams him to the ground and says, if you ever lay your hands on me again. And then he pulls out his sword and says, I'll fucking slice your throat. And then he lets Bakugo go and puts his sword back. And so after that, Bakugo, he still bullies Deku. But Deku decided not to murk his shit because, like, it would be troublesome. And so we'll say a good, 4 years go by. So it's the end of middle school. And 5 years has passed since Deku left his fucking house. And that would make him 8, right? Nah, he can't be 8 going into middle school. Yeah, 5 years have passed. And Deku is about to go into middle school. But when he's walking out of his elementary school at the end of 5th grade, Deku bumps into a person. And he says, what the hell? Who are you? And then he looks up and Deku starts shedding a bunch of tears. And he's like, Killua! And he hugs Killua. And Killua says, Izuku, what's up? And Deku says, are you done with all of your missions? And Killua looks back down and says, sadly, no, I'm not. But guess what? And Deku says, what? I'm a pro hero now. And Deku's like, wow, you really are? And Killua looks at fucking Deku and is like, yeah, of course I am. You know how strong I am, don't you? Killua's like, of course. Is Illumi also a pro hero? And Killua says, yes, he is. And he's also calmed down. He's not as obsessed with us as he used to be. And Deku looks at fucking Killua and says, that's only because Mom made him that way. And Killua looks at Deku and says, shit, you right. Straight facts. That bitch was a lunatic. And they both laugh over this. And so Inko calls Deku a little while afterwards because she's there to pick him up. And she sees Deku talking to a white-haired boy. And she says, excuse me, who are you? And out of instinct, fucking Killua almost throws Inko. And Deku catches her and is like, Killua, this is my mother. And Inko's like, wow, he threw me. Okay, who is he, Deku? And Killua looks at her and says, Deku, that means useless. And Deku looks at him and says, but it also means I can do anything. And Killua says, well then, okay. And so Deku runs over to Killua and hugs him and says, Mom, this is my big brother Killua. And Inko looks at him and says, big brother? Why didn't you tell me about this, Izuku? And Deku looks at Inko and is like, well, I wanted to leave my past in the past, but I didn't think he would show up this soon. I thought he forgot, honestly. And Killua's like, I don't forget my promises. Relax. And Deku's like, you're right. Props. And so both of them basically catch up, and all three of them go to like a cafe, and Inko says, so did you also get the same treatment as Deku? And Killua looks at Inko and says, yes, I did, but Deku's was much worse than mine. Mine's was, of course, horrible, but his was like 10 times more horrible. Only because he had red hair. My mother treated him like an insect. But that doesn't make sense, Inko would say. And Killua says, yes, it does. My mother thinks that people, in our family, my mother thinks people that are born with birth defects are freaks and monsters. That's why she locked up my younger sister, Aluka. And Deku looks at Killua and says, where is Aluka? And fucking Killua smiles and he says, you want to go see her? And Deku says, do I? Of course, shit. Let's go. And Inko looks at him and says, watch your mouth, nigga. You ain't safe. And Deku says, my bad. And so they go to a hotel. And they knock on the door. Because, Killua doesn't have the key code. And a young boy with green hair and fucking orange eyes opens the door. And he says, Killua, what's up? Alec sleeping. And he says, well, wake her up. And Deku says, who are you? And he says, well, I'm Killua's friend, fucking Gon. And Deku looks at Gon and says, wow, you're nice. And I don't even have to know you like that. I can just sense it. And Gon looks at Deku and smiles. And this is when Deku would see Aluka. And he would fucking sprint over and jumps on the bed. And Aluka wakes up and she's like, what's going on, Gon? Where's Killua? And she turns over and she sees a redheaded boy with red eyes. And she's like, who is that? And then she completely wakes up and is like, Izuku? And Deku's like, of course. What's up, Aluka? And Aluka hugs Izuku because she hasn't seen him in fucking 5 years. Damn, I've said fuck so much. I feel offended by my own words. But, yeah. So, Aluka hugs Izuku with all of her might. And Inko takes a whole bunch of pictures and she's like, oh, so cute. And Gon and Killua are standing there like, look at this nigga. He's a fanboy. He's fanboying over his sister, my G. Over his sister, my G. And fucking Deku looks at them and is like, relax. Yeah, y'all know what I'm about. Well, Killua knows what I'm about. Gon, I'm gonna have to teach you what I'm about. And Deku basically lets go of Aluka and says, how did you get out? And Aluka says, Killua, he helped me. And we also had to heal Gon. And Deku says, heal who? And Deku looks at Gon. And he's like, oh, shit, you're Gon. Sorry. And Deku said, not Deku, Gon says, it's okay. But I would like to test your power. And this is when Deku would look at him and says, I am too strong for all of you, including Aluka. And Killua looks at him and says, what are you talking about? Last time I checked, I was stronger than you. And Deku smiles and says, let's find out, shall we? And so they go outside, and Deku gets a royal ass whooping. Nah, I'm just kidding. But Deku does defend himself like absolutely great. And they're struggling against him until Deku gets tired and they start beating the fuck out of him. This would cause Deku to almost pass out, but Killua would catch him because, like, they're brothers and all. And Gon would be like, are you alright? Deku, are you good? And so Gon would go over to Deku and be like, you alright? And Deku would be like, perfectly fine after that ass whooping I just got. And Killua says, it's alright. It took two of us to fight you, so technically, you're pretty strong. I'd say you're almost stronger than All Might, and you're like a 5th grader. And Deku would smile at this, and he says, well, it doesn't matter. I didn't even use my power. And Killua looks at Deku and says, what are you talking about when you say power? And Deku smiles and he says, you know how you use that Godspeed thing? I can do something like that, but it's with wings. And they're not regular wings. They're lava wings. And he says, wait, what? What are you talking about, lava? I have the ability to control all forms of fucking lava. Heat, lava, anything. I can fucking turn fire into lava. I can turn the heat into lava. The ground, I can basically do anything with lava. And Deku says, but there is one major drawback. And Killua looks at him and says, what is it? This is when Deku would be like, shit, anytime I want to fight somebody, I have to figure out a way to cool down my lava. If it touches you, you're dead. And Killua's like, you right. Gon's like, yeah, you right. Props. And so they're like, if you used your lava, would you have beaten us? And Deku says, yes, of course. I'd have just formed a small shield around myself to the point where you guys wouldn't see it. But once you came into 5 inches of me or tried to punch me, your arms would have come off. And they'd have been like, what the hell? And Deku says, I know, it's crazy, right? And Alika and Inko are looking at this and they're talking. 1 second, y'all. Alright, y'all, I'm back. But as I was saying, Alika is talking to Inko and she says, I hope you're taking good care of my brother. Because if you're not, I'll come back and I'll make sure that you pay. And Inko starts laughing and she says, I promise, I'm taking good care of him. And this is when Aluka would laugh and says, well then, I leave him in your hands. Because me and Killua and Gon, we're probably going to go on a suicide mission. And Deku hears this. And he stops dead in his tracks and he says, Aluka, what did you just say? And she covers her mouth. And before anybody could say anything, fucking Deku rushes over to Killua and says, if you die, I will never forgive you. That goes for you too, Gon. And you, Aluka. And just so you guys know, don't worry. If you do die, I'll come and I'll bring you back to life. Well, of course you'll be my servants, but you'll still come back to life. And they're like, servants? What are you talking about? oh, I can make lava servants, just like this one. And he forms a rock man. And he's like, go punch Gon in the chest. And Gon's like, hold on, what you mean punch me in the chest? Nah, don't do that. Nah, what you doing? And so Gon is basically fighting the rock man. And he's like, Deku, call him off, please. I'm sorry, call him off. And Deku's like, no, no, no. And so they all laugh. And Deku calls off the rock man. But he goes in and hugs all of them and says, please don't die. And they say they won't. So fast forward the next day, they leave. But before they leave, fucking Killua teaches Gon about fucking Nin. And Gon will train in this. But he won't use it a lot. So, yeah, they leave, and we're gonna have a time skip to about another year. And in this year, Inko has married a man. And I'm sorry, but Deku, he has to be hoed. Like, I'm sorry. This man would be, fuck it, All Might. And they have a child. And this child has yellow hair with green eyes. And once they have this child, Inko spends most of her time with the baby. She barely notices Deku anymore. But Deku doesn't mind this because he thinks that Inko should spend more time with the baby because, like, the baby always, well, I'm going to give her a name. Izumi always cries and screams and all that good stuff. So Inko is mostly tired all the time. So he doesn't blame her. But, this would kind of start to affect him at the third and last year of his middle school days or something like that. Yeah, middle school days. And so he comes home and he's asking his mom for help. And his mom's like, no, Deku, not right now. I have to take Izumi to the doctor. And Deku says, alright, Mom. And he goes into the room and he's like, hey, he says, hey, Toshinori, can you help me with my homework? And Toshinori says, sorry, kid, I can't right now. I have to go with your mother to the doctor. And Deku's like, alright, I'll just do it by myself. And so Deku does his homework and he gets a pretty bad grade on it. When he comes home, Inko scolds him about this. And Deku's like, sorry, Mom. I'll try better. And so fucking Izumi starts going to preschool and she's coming home with exceptional grades. Like, she's a prodigy. And they're like, Deku, you should be more like your sister. Izumi is smart in all of her classes. And Izuku says, she's a baby. Their subjects are easy. And she's like, Inko and Toshinori are like, Toshinori says, don't backtalk to your mother. You know she does all she can for you. And you're still failing. And Deku, he's like, well, I wouldn't be failing if you guys would actually help me. And back at school, Deku is still getting picked on. And Deku has had enough. So once Deku goes to school the next day, Bakugo takes it too far. And when Deku comes in the classroom, he explodes Deku's face. And Deku's missing a huge chunk of skin. And he's on the ground, bleeding out from his face. And when they call Inko and Toshinori, or All Might, Inko says that they're at their fucking daughter's graduation for pre-K, and she doesn't have time for Deku right now. And Deku, hearing this, he reverts back to his old self. And before, Deku looked like this. He was nice and kind, and he was a pretty boy. But then Deku gave up. And so he went back to this. And once Deku got up, well, he doesn't let anybody see his quirk, but Deku sinked a bit of lava into his face to heal. And he gets up. And he says, well then, I guess I'll be free then. And all of them are looking like, what the hell? What is this quirkless loser doing? And Bakugo goes to explode Deku again, which he does. He hits Deku in the chest, but this doesn't faze Deku. Deku grabs Bakugo's arm and breaks it, completely shattering the bone. And then he keeps stomping on his arm until he sees nothing but blood. And this is when Deku says, well, looks like I am a god. The god of this classroom, that is. And he starts laughing. And he's like, you all are weak. Compared to me, you were nothing but pure peasants, rats, insects at most. And if you ever try to disrespect me again. And he stumps on Bakugo's head with the force of fucking a truck. Imagine a truck hitting you. And he steps on Bakugo's head with this force. And he's like, you'll end up like your dear friend Bakugo here. And Deku sticks his finger through fucking Bakugo's arm because he can elongate his fucking nails like Killua. And he sticks his nails through, God, I can imagine this. And he sticks his nails through Bakugo's arm, and Bakugo's screaming. And Deku tears down. And then he says, hey, Teach, call my mom for me. And the teacher calls Inko. And when Inko picks up, she hears screaming in the background. And she's like, what do you guys want now? And Deku says, give me the phone. And he says, hi, mother. And she instantly notices that Deku has reverted back to his old self. After meeting Killua and Gon, Deku was a happy kid. He didn't really fuck up or backtalk or any of that good stuff. He wasn't as brutal as he was before. But now, Deku is snapped. And she doesn't know what happened. But Deku says, how's your precious daughter doing? And she says, Izuku, are you okay? And Deku says, wow, you're really asking that now? And he laughs. He's like, well then, I guess I'll be leaving your home. And she says, wait, what are you talking about? And Deku says, well, I mean, I've been neglected for a couple of months, actually. And I mean, there's no point in me staying there anyways. You have your precious daughter now. So I'll be going to UA High School. And she says, wait, what? UA? And everybody else says, UA? You can't get in that school. You're a quirkless loser. And this is when Deku, fucking Bakugo isn't there. He's in the infirmary. So this is when Deku, he forms 8 lava balls around him. And he says, this is pure magma. And if any of you speak another word, you will die. And Inko says, hold on, Izuku. Don't kill them, please. And she's calling Killua. And she ends up adding Killua to the call. And Killua's like, hello? Inko, how are you doing? And Inko says, not now, Killua. Deku, he's about to kill his entire class. And Killua's like, what? What are you Oh. Oh, no, 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 no. Inko, what did you do? And she said, I, I ended up accidentally neglecting him. And fucking Killua would say, you can't do that with him. Yeah, I did. Wait, you have another child? And Inko says, yes. And Killua looks at her. Well, he thinks about this and he's like, you can't do that with Deku. Deku has two personalities. He has a very nice personality and he acts like a pushover. But once he loses that, he might not ever go back to it. And she says, well, I know that, but it's not that bad, is it? He says, no, it's horrible. Deku will revert back to his assassin self, and he will try to kill anybody that crosses his path. So please, put me on the phone with Deku now. And so she transfers Killua's call over to Deku, and Deku says, hello. Well, then I guess she hung up. And then he hears Deku, and he says, Killua, what do you need? And Deku says, hold on, you're not dead? And Killua laughs about this. And he says, no, I'm not dead, actually. And Deku's crying. He starts shedding a whole bunch of tears. It's like, how's Gon and Aluka? And Killua says, they're fine. You want to talk to him? And Gon says, well, Deku says, of course. And he puts both of them on the phone and they're like, what's up? What's up, Deku? And Deku starts crying. He's like, I missed you guys so much. I've been mistreated a lot. And Gon says, what are you talking about? You're strong. You shouldn't let anybody mistreat you. And Deku he hears this and he says, I know I shouldn't. But I acted so weak. I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to show my true power. And Gon looks at him and says, wow, fuck it. They're FaceTiming. Gon looks at the camera and says, don't be ashamed of your power. Just because you're an assassin, it doesn't mean anything. Just because you think that you can't control your power, that doesn't mean anything. You can control it. And I promise that you will. You will find a way. And Deku's like, oh, okay. Can I talk to Aluka? And he starts speaking to Aluka. And he says, Aluka, I'd like to make a wish. Can I talk to Nanika? And Aluka says, of course. And she transfers over to Nanika, and Deku would have said, Nanika, I want you to send me $10 million. And Nanika says, okay, Deku. And she grants the wish. And Deku has a card in his pocket. And he says, thank you, Aluka. Or Nanika. Can you please transfer me over to Aluka? And Nanika says, okay. And she transfers. Hold on. Yeah, but when she transfers, Aluka says, how are you doing, Deku? And Deku starts crying. And he's looking at Aluka. And Aluka can see his face. Deku's trying to hide it, but he says, I'm fine. And Aluka says, no, you're not. We're coming there. We'll be there soon. But Deku says, no, don't come. I promise I'm fine. And Deku's looking at Bakugo's body on the ground. And he's like, shit. Damn it, damn it, damn it. If only, if only, if only I had more self-control, I wouldn't have done this. I could have just taken it and just waited and fuck. And this is when Deku would regain his composure. And he'd regain his light. And he says, Alka, you don't need to come down. I'm sorry I lost control. I shouldn't have done that. And Alka says, oh, was that so? Who did you hurt? And Deku says, dang, how'd you know I hurt somebody? And Alka says, well, I can hear screaming in the background. And he says, well, I hurt this kid. And he shows Bakugo. And he says, he tried to explode my face, so like, force of habit, I just like, well, you know. What'd you do? Aluka says, fucking. Deku says, oh, I got my nails. I shoved them in his arm, and I tore a huge chunk of skin out of his arm. And Aluka says, ouch. That's gonna leave a mark. And Deku says, can you heal it for me? And Aluka's like, alright, just don't let it happen again. And Deku agrees to this. So she heals Bakugo, and the bell rings, and they leave. But when Deku's walking out of the classroom, Bakugo explodes his backpack and says, don't you ever try to attack me like that again, you bastard, or I'll get my parents on you, and they'll sue you and your poor family. And Deku laughs at this, and he says, I could kill your mother at any time. Plus, she's friends with my mom, so why would she sue us? And Deku leaves. Once Deku gets home, Inko comes and hugs him and says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And Toshinori looks disappointed. And he's like, Toshinori, what are you looking at me like that for? And Toshinori says, I thought you were a good kid, making your mother worry like this. And this is when fucking, what did I call her? Izumi would come in and says, yeah, Deku, I was at my graduation. You're making mom worry about other things like that? How selfish of you. And Inko says, now Izumi, that's not nice to say. And Toshinori, why would you say something like that? And Toshinori would say, well, it's true. Plus he's taking up too much space. We need to throw him out. And because All Might / Toshinori will be a dick in this one, I'm not gonna make him a dick in every fucking what if. Probably just like 3 more. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But because of all the convincing that he did to get Deku kicked out, he planted evidence that Deku was doing drugs and smoking, even though he wasn't. And so Inko kicked him out. She made him pack his things and gave him 2 days to leave. But on the first day, Deku left. But it was okay because he went to UA. Deku got a hotel. Well, before he went to UA, Deku got a hotel. And he fucking left. He was like, fuck. All they do is betray me. Everybody. Even my family. And Deku remembers that his father told him to come back anytime that he needed training or help. And so Deku asks for a refund at the counter of the hotel. And he gets his refund and he walks to he walks to UA. And he does the entrance exam. And he aces that shit. I'm not even gonna get into it. Like he destroys so many robots, it's astounding. Nah. I don't want him to be noticed. I'm gonna show you how I do this. So Deku destroys just enough robots to get into class 1A. And then he leaves. And for the 10 months, Deku has been training with the Zoldicks. So he went back through the hellish torture, the horrible training, all of the fighting styles they had him do. And he's killed over hundreds, maybe even thousands of people in only 10 months. And Deku was doing mission after mission until Deku didn't care about killing anymore. He thought it was fun. Any chance he got, he'd have killed someone. And so once the 10 months are up, Deku leaves and he walks back home. And by this time, Deku doesn't look like this anymore. He looks like your boy Karma. Ooh-wee. That boy Karma looks sexy. I ain't even gonna lie to you. No homo though, no homo. You know I'm not gay. So yeah. Deku, he walks back to his home. Well, his original home with Inko. And Izumi would be, fuck it, let's make her 8. And when Deku kicks in the door, he says, Mom, I'm home. And Inko comes running in. And so does Toshinori and fucking Izumi. And so they're all like, why are you here? And Deku says, look, I got into UA. And fucking Toshinori frowns at this and he's like, how did you get in? You're not even that strong. And Deku laughs and says, I could easily kill you if I felt like it. And Deku says, if you press me like that again, you'll die. And All Might takes this as a threat and he's like, what did you say, you villain? And he goes to punch Deku. But Deku fucking grabs his fist and he starts crushing it. And he says, All Might, would you like to die here in front of your so-called wife and your mother? Not your mother, I'm sorry, your daughter. And fucking Izumi's like, let go of my daddy. And she runs at fucking Deku. Let's give her, because she'll already have One for All. She'll have One for All and a week fucking telekinesis quirk. She'll have One for All in a weak telekinesis quirk. And so she gets like little sharp pins and knives and she's launching them all at Deku. But Deku summons a knife and he starts cutting all of them in half. And they're confused on how he's purely cutting metal. And Deku says, this isn't a regular knife. It's my knife that I encased with fucking lava. So if you try me, I'll slit your throat, All Might. And then you'll really die. Your daughter will be scarred for life. And Inko, my so-called mother. And Inko frowns because, Aluka trusted her with Deku. And she fucked him over. And Deku says, to my so-called mother, screw you. I went back to my regular family and they trained me. They trained me hard and long. You want to see the new cuts I got? And Deku takes off his shirt and all of them gasps. Hold on. Sorry. You know I had to get a picture of my boy Kite. But Deku takes off his shirt and there's so many scratches on him. Deku is barely recognizable with his fucking shirt off. And he's like, what the fuck? And Deku says, I can get rid of all of them, but I kind of like them. And they're all scared because, he has unimmeasurable strength. And they don't know what type of other powers he has because he hasn't really shown anything. But, yeah, I'm going to tell y'all soon. And this nigga's powers are going to be astounding. Well, y'all already know he has control over lava. He can basically do anything with that. I'll also give him control over all forms of heat. That's overpowered as fuck. And I love my overpowered characters. So, yeah. So, Deku puts back on his shirt. And, hold on. I'm gonna switch this. But I'm not finna let y'all see the fucking ship. Cause y'all gonna be like, wait. He's giving us the ship already? Nani? Nah, not yet, niggas. Not yet. Yeah. But as I was saying, Deku puts back on his shirt and he says, oh, and All Might, I'll see you at UA. And Deku walks off. And so, we're gonna have a time skip of about 2 days. And Deku lives in a mansion. Because he used the money that Aluka gave him and bought a fucking mansion. We'll give him a Range Rover, a Tesla, a Range Rover, a Tesla, a Lambo, and 2 dirt bikes. But Deku loves riding on his dirt bikes, cause he love his fancy shit, but he gotta stick to his culture. You already know. And so Deku pulls up to school on a dirt bike, and it's all dripped out, and everybody's looking at him. They're like, who's this kid? He thinks he's so cool. And Bakugo says, Deku! And Deku walks in, and Bakugo tries to run up and punch him, but Deku grabs his hand, knees him in the stomach, breaks his arm, stumps on it, kicks him in the stomach. And I mean, this dude, Bakugo, is getting the shit beat out of him. And then he just starts wailing on Bakugo. And then he drags him to class 1A and throws him in. And is like, well, I mean, I don't know who did this to him, but if you could find them, I'd gladly appreciate it. And Bakugo doesn't remember shit because, Deku is beating the fuck out of him. And he has memory loss. Because, I would too if that nigga beat the shit out of me. But, yeah. So this nigga Deku, he pulls up, takes his seat, and Aizawa wakes up and is like,
yeah, I need you to try this.
Hold on, y'all.
I need you to try this.
Sorry, y'all. That was my idiotic fucking brother. But, yeah. So, Aizawa wakes up and he looks at Bakugo's bloodied body on the ground. And he's like, fuck him. I'm starting my lesson. And he says, everybody put on these and head outside. Deku completely ignores that shit and he walks outside without Aizawa. And Aizawa's like, are you not gonna put them on? And Deku's like, fuck that. I got too many scars on my body for anybody to be seeing. I was like, alright, bet. And he's like, I just need you to throw a ball. We finna have a quirk assessment. I said assessment. We're finna have a quirk assessment. And Deku's like, alright, bet. And so Aizawa hands him the ball when everybody gets out there. Nah. He'll hand Bakugo the ball when Bakugo eventually gets up and decides to head out. Because, Deku did the least amount of work to, pass. And so we'll say Deku goes last. And so once Deku gets up to the plate, Deku lobs that hell. And it goes soaring. That shit's gone. It's out of there. Out of the park. Swing, hit, home run. Shit. That hoe's gone. It's in space. Different dimension. Different reality, my nigga. And they're like, oh shit. Yeah. This nigga's crazy. He's brazy. And so Deku's like, what did I get? And the reader is like, error. This nigga's on X Games mode. Error. And Aizawa was like, you got infinity. And so Deku's like, alright, bet. And so they continue the whole quirk assessment test. And Deku finishes first. But we're gonna have a time skip of one day. And this is juicy. This is when the juicy stuff comes into play. And this is when Deku walks into class and he sees All Might there. And he's like, the fuck? And All Might's like, you're late. Sit down. And everybody's like, why is he talking to him like that? And Deku looks at him and says, All Might. And Toshinori says, Deku. And Toshinori is like, anyways, today we're going to be doing the heroes versus villains. And so everybody cheers and they go to the starting room. And this is when Toshinori rigs the fucking test because Mineta isn't here, so there's an odd amount of people. And so one person will have to go by themselves. And so he chooses Deku. And Deku smiles at this. And he puts Deku up against Bakugo and Todoroki. And as I was like, that's overkill. And Deku looks at him and says, relax, Aizawa. I'll handle this. And so Toshinori says, Deku versus Bakugo and Todoroki. And Deku will be a hero. And Todoroki and Bakugo are villains. And so Todoroki and Bakugo are so confident that they got this hole in the bag, they just gonna rush this nigga Deku. And so once Toshinori says begin, Deku walks in and he sees Bakugo. And Deku immediately starts laughing. And Bakugo says, what's so funny? Deku fucking looks at him and he says, you're already knocked out. And Bakugo falls. And everybody's like, what did he do? And this is when Deku just keeps walking. And he fucking gets to Todoroki. And Todoroki don't waste no time. He firing ice blast, fucking ice spears, ice glaciers. And Deku's basically just standing there taking all of that shit. And everybody's thinking this is doing damage, but you do remember, Deku controls all forms of... Sorry, that was my fucking dick of a brother, as I was saying. But, yeah. Damn, it pissed me off. So, Todoroki is wasting no time, and he on Deku ass. But Deku doesn't give a fuck, and he runs over to Todoroki, grabs Todoroki by the neck, slams him to the ground, and puts his knife to his throat and says, surrender. And not Bakugo. Todoroki says, never. And Deku says, well then, die. And he slices Todoroki's throat, knocking him out. Everybody thinks he's dead, but he's not. He's only knocked out because fucking Deku simulated death for Todoroki. And so once Deku walks out, Toshinori or All Might, I'm not calling him All Might because he's a dick in this one. He says, you are now a villain. You're under arrest for killing Todoroki. Shoto Todoroki. And Deku says, he's not dead. And they all say, what? You just slit his throat. And Deku says, he'll wake up in 10 minutes. So if they wait 10 minutes and he doesn't wake up, but at about 11 minutes, Todoroki wakes up. And he's like, what happened? And Deku says, see, what did I tell you? And then he walks away. I'm gonna leave it off here because I'm tired of shit. So, bye.